Florence Shinn used one specific command to pay her bills when she had no money in her bank account. And most people have never heard it. And once you do, you will understand exactly how she manifested supply in situations that looked completely hopeless. So let us start with the premise, as stated in Philippians 4:19. My God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory. All your need. Not some, not when convenient, all. And the supply comes according to his riches, which are infinite, not according to your bank balance, not according to your salary, not according to what looks possible in the visible world. This is what I would like to discuss with you today. Now, before we go any further, I want to stop here because what I'm about to share works most powerfully when you are already standing in the right consciousness to receive it. So I need you to say this out loud right now with me. Say, Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance for me. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right. Say it one more time and mean it this time. Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance for me. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right. Good. Hold that feeling, because that is the exact command Florence Shinn used, those specific words, in that specific order. And we are going to unpack why each phrase matters and how to actually use this in your life. So let me start here with the first thing you have to understand. The bill is not your enemy. Your fear of the bill is. The bill itself is just paper, just a number, just a request for an exchange. The bill has no power over your life, no power over your future, no power to determine what is possible for you. It is completely neutral. But the moment you look at the bill and feel that contracted panic in your chest, that tightness in your stomach, that voice that whispers, "How am I going to handle this?" In that moment, you have given the bill all of its power. You have told your subconscious mind that lack is real, that there is not enough, that the situation is dire. And the subconscious responds with more of exactly that. More lack, more not enough, more situations that feel impossible. Florence Shinn was relentless about this point. She said the only thing standing between you and your supply is the fear that you do not have it. The bill is just the messenger. The fear is the actual block. And once you understand that, you can begin to handle bills very differently. You can hold the bill in your hand and remain calm. You can speak to the situation with authority instead of begging it for mercy. And that single shift, that refusal to give the bill power over your inner state, is the first step in opening the channels through which the supply can move. Here is a practical thing you can start doing tonight. When a bill arrives in your mailbox or your email, do not open it in a state of dread. Do not pile it with the others hoping it goes away. Do not avoid it. Pick it up, hold it, and before you even look at the number, say out loud, "This obligation is met. The supply is on its way. I receive what I need to handle this perfectly." Then open the bill, look at the amount, and say with conviction, "This is handled." Put it down and let it go. What you have just done is profound. You have refused to allow the bill to program your subconscious with fear. You have programmed it instead with the instruction of already handled, already supplied, already met. And that is the consciousness from which the supply moves. The second principle is the command itself and why every single word matters. And I want to walk you through this slowly, because this is the heart of everything Florence Shinn taught. The command is, Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance for me. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right. Now look at each piece. Infinite Spirit. You are not asking a limited source. You are not asking your boss, your bank, your family. You are addressing the infinite source itself, the field that contains all possibilities, the consciousness from which everything visible has emerged. And that distinction is enormous, because when you ask a limited source for help, you are subject to that source's limits. But when you address the infinite source, you are operating outside of any human limitation. Open the way. You are not asking for the money directly. You are asking for the path, the channels, the openings. You are saying, make the route possible, and I trust the route. This is a very specific kind of asking, because most people ask for the outcome and then try to control the method. They say, I need this money, and it needs to come from this specific source by this specific date, and they unconsciously close all the other channels through which it could arrive. But when you ask for the way to be opened, you are leaving the method completely up to the source. You are saying, surprise me, deliver this through whatever channel is most aligned. And that openness is what allows the infinite to actually work. For great abundance, not just enough, not survival, abundance. Because Florence understood that asking for just enough is asking from a state of lack, and the subconscious responds to the state more than the words. So you ask for great abundance, because that is the state of fullness from which true supply flows. This point matters so much, I want to say it again. You cannot manifest abundance from a state of asking for just enough. The two states are incompatible. Abundance is the consciousness of overflow, of more than needed, of fullness, and you must occupy that consciousness in order to manifest it in form. I am an irresistible magnet. This is not a request, this is a declaration of being. You are saying who you are now, in this moment. You are an irresistible magnet, meaning what you desire cannot help but move toward you. The magnetic field is set. The pull is automatic. And notice the word irresistible, not resistible, not somewhat magnetic, irresistible. What is yours cannot resist coming to you, for all that belongs to me. This is the part most people miss entirely. You are not asking for what belongs to someone else. You are not begging for charity. You are claiming what is already yours, what has your name on it in the invisible, what is reserved for you in the great storehouse of supply, by divine right. And this is the most powerful phrase in the whole command, divine right, meaning a right that cannot be denied, cannot be revoked, cannot be withheld by any circumstance or person. When you claim something by divine right, you are appealing to the highest law, the law that supersedes the visible situation, the law that says, what is mine cannot be kept from me. And when you speak that command with conviction, every single phrase places a precise instruction in the subconscious mind, and the subconscious begins to organize the outer world to deliver what you have claimed. Here is the third piece, the casting of the burden. This is the second command Florence Shinn used constantly, and it is the practical companion to the first. The command is, I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. Now the burden is the emotional weight, the anxiety, the worry, the heaviness you carry about the situation. And Florence understood something profound here. You cannot manifest from the burden. The burden itself is a vibration of having the problem. And if you carry the burden, you are placing the instruction of having the problem into your subconscious mind continuously. The supply cannot reach you while you are holding the burden. The casting of the burden is the act of consciously releasing the emotional weight. You do not pretend the situation is not there. You simply release your grip on the heaviness of it. You give the burden over to a higher consciousness, the Christ within, which is your higher self, your real nature, your awareness. And in releasing the burden, you become free. Free meaning unencumbered, light, open, in the exact state required to receive. And you may need to cast the burden many times in a single day. Every time the heaviness returns, you cast it again. I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free, until the heaviness becomes less and less, and the freedom becomes more and more natural. And from that freedom, the channels of supply can finally open. Now, I want to address something here because this trips people up. You might be wondering, How can I cast the burden when the bill is real and the deadline is real and the consequences are real? Here is the answer. The bill is real, but the burden is not. The bill is a fact, a piece of paper, a number. The burden is the emotional weight you have wrapped around the bill, and that weight is what you are casting off, not the bill itself. The bill still exists, the deadline still exists, but you do not have to carry the weight. You can handle the bill from a state of lightness and certainty rather than crushing pressure. And from that lightness, you can think clearly. You can act wisely. You can hear the inner guidance about what to do next, and the supply can actually reach you. But from the crushing pressure of the burden, your thinking becomes distorted. Your actions become reactive. You cannot hear the inner guidance, and the supply gets blocked. The casting is not denial, it is liberation. The fourth piece is this: you have to speak from supply, never from lack. This is so critical because most people are unconsciously cursing their own finances with the words they use every single day. Every word you speak about money is either reinforcing supply or reinforcing lack. There is no neutral. When you say, "I cannot afford it," you are programming your subconscious with the instruction of cannot afford. When you say, "money is tight," you are programming your subconscious with the instruction of tightness. When you say, "I am broke," you are giving the most powerful command in the universe, "I am," to a state of brokenness. Florence Shinn was relentless about this. She said, never make negative declarations about your finances. Never. Because the subconscious mind takes whatever you say after "I am" as a command to manifest. So instead of "I cannot afford it," you say, "It is not for me right now," or "This is not on my path." Instead of "money is tight," you say, "I am rearranging my supply." Instead of "I am broke," you never say that, ever. You say, "I have a large, undreamed of sum of money coming to me." You say, "My supply is on its way." You say, "I am between waves of abundance." You guard your speech, especially your speech about money, like your life depends on it. Because in the consciousness sense, it absolutely does. And this has to extend to your inner speech as well. The thoughts you think about money in the silence of your own mind, because the subconscious does not distinguish between spoken and unspoken declarations. Every time you think to yourself, "I do not have enough," you are programming yourself with not enough. Every time you mentally complain about your finances, you are deepening the very pattern you are trying to change. The work is to catch yourself in those moments, to interrupt the old declaration and replace it with the new one. And over time, with consistent practice, the new declarations become your default, the old ones fade, and your relationship with money fundamentally shifts. I want to share something Florence Shinn taught that very few people know about. She called it the law of the subconscious clause, and here is what it means. Any belief you have ever accepted about money, or supply, or what is possible for you, you have the absolute right to rescind. You can say at any time, "I rescind any belief that has been operating in my subconscious that says I cannot have abundance. I rescind any agreement I have ever made with limitation. I am free of all old programming around money." This is not magical thinking. This is the conscious mind exercising authority over what has been placed in the subconscious mind. And it works, especially when combined with consistent new programming. You can quite literally rescind the old beliefs and install new ones, and the subconscious will reorganize itself around the new instruction. The fifth piece is the deepest. What belongs to you by divine right cannot be withheld. I want you to really hear this, because once it lands in you, it changes everything. There are things in this world that have your name on them. Opportunities, money, relationships, roles that are yours by divine right, meaning they are designed for you, calibrated for you, waiting for you. And the law states that what belongs to you by divine right cannot be kept from you by any person, by any circumstance, by any seeming delay. The only thing that can keep your divine inheritance from you is your own inner state of not claiming it, of not feeling worthy of it, of not believing it is for you. The universe cannot give you what you do not accept as already yours. But the moment you claim it, the moment you say with conviction, "What is mine by divine right comes to me now in perfect ways," you have removed the only obstacle, and the inheritance begins to move toward you. Sometimes slowly, sometimes immediately, but always perfectly, because divine right is not a metaphor. It is the most precise law in the universe. What is yours, and now you know how to claim it. Let me give you a specific practice for this, because it is one thing to understand the concept and another thing to actually live it. Every morning when you wake up, before you do anything else, say out loud, "I claim my full divine inheritance today. I claim every opportunity that has my name on it. I claim every dollar that is mine by divine right. I claim every blessing that is reserved for me. I do not chase, I do not beg, I claim." Then go about your day in that consciousness, in that knowing that what is yours cannot be kept from you, and watch what begins to happen. Watch how circumstances begin to arrange themselves to deliver what you have claimed. Watch how unexpected opportunities appear. Watch how the right people show up at the right time. This is not coincidence. This is the law responding to your claim. And the more consistently you claim, more consistently, the universe delivers, finally, the sixth piece. And this is the one that most people find the hardest to accept, but the most important to understand. The hour of need is the hour of supply. Florence Shinn observed something across hundreds of cases she worked with. The supply very often appeared at the absolute last possible moment, the day the bill was due, the hour before the rent was needed, the morning of the deadline. And most people see this as a failure of the law. They say, if the law really worked, the money would have come earlier and saved me the anxiety. But Florence saw it completely differently. She saw the hour of need as the hour of perfect supply. Because in that final hour, when there is nothing left to do, when there is no more strategizing or forcing or controlling, you are forced into complete surrender. You have no choice but to release the burden. You have no choice but to trust. And that state of complete surrender, of total release of control, is the exact state required for the supply to flow. The universe is not punishing you with the timing. It is meeting you at the moment you are finally able to receive. And once you understand this, you stop fighting the timing. You stop demanding the money come earlier than it does. You trust that the supply will arrive exactly when you are ready to receive it. Sometimes that is weeks in advance. Sometimes that is the very last hour. And either way, the supply comes. Because the law is precise. What is yours by divine right comes to you in perfect timing. There is something deeply transformative about going through one of these hour of need experiences, where the supply arrives just in time, and you realize the universe really does work. You realize you were never as alone as you felt. You realize that the law really is operating in your favor, even when it does not look like it. And after one of these experiences, your faith deepens permanently. Your trust in the law becomes unshakable. And future financial situations no longer create the same level of anxiety because you know, from direct experience, that the supply always comes. And from that deeper trust, the situations themselves begin to ease. The dramatic last-hour deliveries become less necessary because your default state is now one of trust rather than fear. The law can deliver earlier and more easily because you are no longer requiring the dramatic surrender to release the burden. You have released it permanently. Now step back with me for a second, because this is the whole picture. You have an outer situation, a bill, a financial pressure, an obligation that seems impossible to meet. That is the visible layer. Beneath that, you have your relationship with the situation, the fear, the burden, the anxiety. That is the emotional layer. And beneath that, you have the consciousness from which you are operating. Are you operating from lack or from divine supply? Are you operating from being a victim of the bill or from being an irresistible magnet for what is yours? That is the consciousness layer. And the consciousness layer is what determines everything, because the subconscious mind takes its instruction from that consciousness, and the outer world reorganizes itself to match the instruction. So when you cast off the burden, when you speak the command with conviction, when you claim what is yours by divine right, when you guard your speech and refuse to declare lack, when you trust the timing even when it goes to the last hour, you have shifted the consciousness, and the subconscious responds, and the outer situation must shift in response. The channels open, the supply moves, the bill gets paid. Sometimes through expected means, often through completely unexpected ones, but always in perfect timing. This is not a one-time fix. This is a way of life. The people who consistently experience supply, who never seem to lack, who always have what they need when they need it, are people who have made this consciousness their default state. They speak this way, they think this way, they feel this way about money every day, not just when there is an emergency. And over time, this consistent consciousness creates a life of consistent supply. The emergencies become rare because the underlying pattern has changed. This is what is available to you when you make this teaching not a technique you pull out in emergencies, but a foundation you build your entire life on. You do not need to wait until you are in a bill emergency to use this command. In fact, you should use it long before any emergency arises. Every morning, as part of your routine, before you check your bank account, before you look at your email, before you read any news, you speak the command with conviction. Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance for me. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right. You say it like you mean it, like you already know it is true, like you are simply confirming what is already established in the invisible. And you do this every single day. And over time, the consciousness of supply becomes your dominant state, and the financial situations that used to feel impossible begin to resolve themselves with surprising ease. And you realize that Florence Shinn was telling the absolute truth. The supply was never the problem, the consciousness was. And once the consciousness shifts, the supply has no choice but to follow. And one more thing. Gratitude is the consciousness of receiving. When you are truly grateful for what you already have, no matter how small, you are in the receiving state. You are programming your subconscious with the instruction of abundance already here. And from that state, more abundance flows. So combine the command with active gratitude. Every morning when you speak the command, also list 3 things you are grateful for that demonstrate supply is already flowing in your life. The roof over your head is supply. The food you ate yesterday is supply. The air you are breathing right now is supply. Gratitude is the receiving consciousness, and the more you cultivate it, the more you receive. And listen, I want to tell you something honestly, because there is a part of this that nobody really talks about. When you are in the middle of a financial situation that feels impossible, the hardest thing in the world is to believe that any of this actually works. You read these words, you hear these teachings, and a part of you wants to believe, but another part of you is screaming, "This is just words, while my reality is collapsing." I understand that completely. And what I want to say to you is this. Even if you cannot believe yet, speak the command anyway. Even if the burden feels too heavy to cast, attempt to cast it anyway. Even if you cannot feel the magnetic pull of being an irresistible magnet, declare it anyway. Because the law works whether you believe it perfectly or not. It works on whatever consciousness you can muster. Even a small consciousness shift moves the situation. And once you see one small shift, your belief deepens, and the next shift comes easier. And over time, you build the consciousness that allows the law to flow freely. Do not wait until you have perfect faith to begin. Begin where you are, with whatever faith you have, with whatever conviction you can manage, and trust that it is enough to start. Because it is. Florence Shinn helped countless people through exactly the situations you are facing now, and not one of them had perfect faith when they began. They all started where they were, with whatever they had, and the law met them and lifted them. The same is true for you. So close your eyes for a moment, take a breath, and speak the command one more time with me. Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance for me. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right. Hold that. Feel it. Know it. The channels are opening right now as you say these words. The supply is moving toward you in this very moment. You are no longer alone with the situation. The infinite source is now actively organizing the outer world to deliver what is yours. Rest in that knowing. Rest in the certainty that what is yours is coming. Rest in the freedom from the burden you have carried for too long. You are free. The way is open. The supply is on its way. And that is exactly how it should be. So go now in peace, knowing that everything you need is being arranged in perfect order, knowing that you are loved, knowing that you are supported, knowing that the situation you have been carrying alone is now being handled by something far greater than you. And let me know in the comments how the law works in your life, because it will, and I want to hear about it.